East of Flagstaff, Arizona, old Route 66 meanders through the rolling landscape. And like most of Route 66, towns were built to provide service to travelers. Arizona was definitely no exception. Along its path there were service stations, diners, towns, souvenir shops, and tourist traps. When the interstate was built, it bypassed Route 66, resulting in decreased tourism, leaving many of these places to close and slowly decay. Today we're visiting one of those towns. It actually predates Route 66, but nonetheless, when the Mother Road was built, this town went through a transformation, eventually boasting amenities like a restaurant, Indian gift shop, and even a zoo. Welcome to Two Guns, Arizona. Two Guns has a really colorful history. In the mid-1800s, the area was contested territory between the Navajo and Apache tribes, with numerous skirmishes. The arrival of westward traveling settlers further increased that conflict. There is a cave in the area that is referred to as the Apache Death Cave. After a group of Apache warriors slaughtered an entire Navajo camp, they were tracked to the cave and the Navajo lit a fire at its entrance. Also in winter of 1879, supposedly the infamous outlaw Billy the Kid and his gang hid in the ruins of a stone house on the rim of the canyon not far from here. This Shell service station opened in 1963. At that point in time, the town was already in poor shape. The landowners thought that maybe some revitalization would bring back some tourism, so they built a KOA Campground, a motel, and a Western-themed tavern. Unfortunately, the gas station burned down in 1971, and ultimately that marked the demise of Two Guns. As you can tell, the service station wasn't too big, but I think this back room is probably some storage area. But what sticks out for me is, usually by the time I find abandoned places, there's debris everywhere, but because the station's been closed for so long, there really isn't hardly any debris around. There's no glass or anything really. Now we're exploring what remains of the KOA Campground. This water tank has some unique graffiti that is actually quite artistic, I think. These charred remnants are all that remains of the motel and KOA camp office. From pictures that I found online, it was standing more recently, even though it was still in a severely decayed state. This picture from 2013 shows what the building's A-frame design used to look like. It's too bad it burned down. And of course there was a swimming pool, but since the KOA campground closed in the 80s, the pool area has been turned into a canvas for taggers and graffiti artists alike. It is a pretty decent sized pool though, so I kind of wonder if skaters actually have come here at some point. I do think that skull graffiti looks kind of neat though. And then there's this building that's by the pool. I'm guessing it probably housed pool equipment at one point, but now it's just covered in graffiti. I do wonder, that open area to the left, it could have possibly been used for shade for people using the pool, kind of like a cabana. Yeah, I can definitely see that back when this KOA campground was still open, that this would have provided some well-needed shade during those hot summer days. And this is a canyon that I briefly mentioned earlier, but it definitely carries significant historical weight for two guns. It was named Canyon Diablo by a U.S. Army lieutenant while performing a survey around 1853. It became an obstacle for settlers, traders, and even indigenous people moving through the region. This is mainly because the canyon runs roughly north and south through an otherwise flat landscape. But the town is located in an area where the canyon widens and is shallow enough to become passable. Some settlers and prospectors decided to put down roots near the canyon. The first building in this traversable portion of the canyon was a trading post where anyone passing through the region could obtain more supplies. The National Old Trails Highway, which was built in 1907, loosely followed the Santa Fe Railway, but crossed Diablo Canyon's dry riverbed in this area. Around 1914, construction started on this bridge that officially rerouted this highway out of the canyon. For a while, this bridge also served as a crossing for Route 66, but it closed in 1938. At that time, Route 66 was rerouted roughly along Interstate 40's current alignment and used a newly constructed bridge. These buildings apparently were part of a ranch and corral. Remember how I mentioned Billy the Kid earlier? These structures are on the west rim of the canyon, which sounds like it potentially could be where his gang hid out from authorities. But speaking of outlaws, there was a famous train heist that occurred near here in 1889. 4 men who were employed by a local ranch robbed a train at Canyon Diablo and fled on horseback. They stole over $100,000 in currency, including 2,500 silver dollars, $40,000 in gold coins, and other items like silver watches, diamonds, and jewelry. There was a posse led by the local sheriff, Bucky O'Neill, who pursued the outlaws. When caught, they had less than $100 worth of items. Years after the outlaws were released, one of the thieves disclosed that the stolen currency and items were buried near the rim of the canyon. To this day, the treasure has not been found, so the area is a popular spot for treasure hunters and metal detectors. If you've enjoyed this video, hit thumbs up and consider subscribing. As always, thank you for watching.